Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Thank you for joining me for another video. Even loose observers of the Herald and the Meg know and agree on one big thing. They are quite possibly the most incompetent people in the public eye. They've been roasted by South Park, by John Mulaney at a Netflix event, by countless others. A scathing Vanity Fair article expose. They've been thrown deals they do not deserve. Clearly don't deserve, and subsequently lost said deals because of their lack of ability, lack of talent, poor work ethic, for negative reviews, bad ideas. The list goes on. Even their book deal has recently been rumored to have quietly gone away. Perhaps the publisher mercifully not publicizing the fact that they have chosen to end the deal with Harry and Meghan. The publishers are no longer interested in publishing anything else from this couple at all. But they didn't come out with a big song and dance about it. They just kind of were like, we're done. We're not interested in anything else that you may or may not have. No, thank you. Thank goodness for us all. The Bench was awful. I'll link the video where we analyzed that book. Spoiler alert, it's quite literally not for kids at all, but it's packaged as a kid's book. So strange. I haven't seen hardly any other kids' books like that, where it's obviously not for kids. It doesn't even make sense. I guess that part is on brand for the Meg. She doesn't really do things that make much sense. It can't make sense if the Meg is involved in it, I guess. Spare did sell a great deal out of morbid curiosity, and Prince Harry does still spark a degree of interest from the group that no longer really follows present royal news closely, but does know that he is Diana's son. So the sales were okay initially, but then it completely fell off a cliff. It was almost immediately marked down, sold at 50% off within the first few weeks, sometimes right off the bat, and it became the most returned book of all time. I didn't even know that was a metric people followed, but evidently it is. Paperback release came and went with hardly a whimper. No one cared about it and no one bought it. The audio version was incredibly cringe to listen to. It made my skin crawl listening to some of the more disturbing parts, like the whole Todger Diana scene. It shouldn't have been in the book, and it certainly shouldn't have been read to us aloud by Harry. It was gross. Anyway, safe to say the publishers understood that there was no demand, no appetite, no tolerance for any future books from Harold or the Meg of any sort. And so they ended the deal. They didn't publicize it. Credit to them, I suppose. They didn't want to kick them while they're down, I guess. But the incompetence literally everyone else can see plainly seems to be lost completely on Harry and Meghan. Everyone, even people who do not care about Harry and Meghan or the royals at all, can see that they are incredibly incompetent in everything that they have tried to do so far. Part of that is because it's all been so heavily publicized because Harry and Meghan have inflated egos, and they thought it would be a really big deal, everything they were doing. And then it all failed so hard. They fell flat on their face on the world stage, in part because they tried to hype it up and make it a big deal and publicize it. I mean, if Archetypes had billboards in Times Square, it would seem that Harry and Meghan are left completely unaware of their incompetence, forging along with more unwanted publicity, unwelcome outings, and undesired projects at every turn. The Meg is still currently scheduled to have her Netflix show release in March, and though some think it's going to be canceled completely, it's highly unlikely that they would choose not to air it. It's a series that is already completed, editing is already done, it's literally ready to air. If it still had work to be done, I could see Netflix being like, no, let's just cancel this and save the money on editing and promotion and all of that. Let's just cut our losses. But there's no more work left to be done at this point. All they have to do is release it, push a button like, yeah, it's live. That's all they have to do. So it's guaranteed that they're going to release it. It would have to be some huge change in circumstances for them to choose not to release it. I don't think that's going to happen at all, because now that it's completely done, at this point, releasing it is the only way for them to at least be able to recoup a portion of their investment this way. Even if it hardly breaks even, it's something. It's better than nothing, than having something completed and just sitting there on a shelf collecting dust. So I do not think that it's going to be canceled. I know there's a rumor about that, but I don't think that's likely at all, just from a business perspective. For a content streamer like them, like, there's no win for them to not release it. No win whatsoever. So it's going to be released almost indefinitely, for sure. But even that, people are like, no, thank you. We don't want it. But this incompetency phenomenon that we've been witnessing with Harry and Meghan, where everyone collectively is like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? Why would they do that? What a bad idea. And they just seem oblivious to this. This is a phenomenon we see in other people too. There's probably people you know in real life or you've known in real life or other public figures even that sometimes seem completely incapable of whatever it is that they're attempting to do. And this is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And research has been done on this very thing. It's quite fascinating, actually. Why do some people, like Harry and Meghan, seem completely unaware of their incapability to do things? They think that they're really, really great at something. Amazing, fantastic, and very capable. And then they fail repeatedly and prove on paper to be completely incompetent. Psychologically, what's going on can vary. In some cases, it's simply that we aren't always a great judge of our own performance. It takes skill and taking feedback to practice understanding and evaluating your own performance of things. But also, it could just be that they're very narcissistic and egotistical and are like, well, everybody else is wrong, because that's a thing too. But more than 100 studies have shown that humans tend to rate themselves as superior, their abilities as better than they are, when asked about their own performance. We're likely to self-evaluate higher than would statistically be accurate, especially when we're new to something. But more interestingly, people with the least ability or lowest performance are most susceptible to this, and the most likely to do it, and to the greatest extent. Put simply, the worse you are at something, the more likely you are to believe that you're doing better at it than you are, meaning you're not only rating yourself a greater percentage away from how you're actually performing, but it's almost inconceivable to you that you are that bad at it. Which kind of sadly explains a lot for Harry and Meghan, especially when it comes to Netflix and Oprah and their vibes or frame of mind in general about their time with the royals, that they thought that they were so good at the job of being royal and doing royal work when everyone else was like, you are not doing a good job. They sucked at it in so many ways. Meghan was not great at it. Harry thought she was amazing at it. Harry thought that he and Meghan were the absolute stars of the show, misinterpreting the interest in the new person as interest in them as people forevermore, as like a change in the tides rather than just a fleeting bit of news, and thought they were the best at it, and they deserved to leverage that against the monarchy to get their way. It was crazy. But it really beggars belief that for a long time, almost all of us were saying, how can Harry have said that the Meg was doing the job of a working royal better than everyone else within the royal family within weeks of joining? He was saying she was better at it than people who had been doing it for years or decades, and she had just started. How was he saying that and thinking it made sense or was true or even a little bit true? In less than 72 engagements, public-facing working days, she's the best? How can they believe this? How can Harry be saying this with a serious, straight face and meaning it? There were so many examples of mistakes with Harry and Meghan, but Meghan especially, she was new to it and people were giving her grace at first. It wasn't until they started acting like they were so much better at it than they were and ignoring their mistakes. We saw countless examples of mistakes and errors. Meghan clearly not reading briefs, not dressing appropriately for things, canceling or showing up late, coming and going, cutting visits short, holding hands while you're meant to be shaking hands of people who have waited for hours to meet you, just so many things. More serious examples as well from behind the scenes. You can go back and watch this playlist. I will try to link for you here or in the description box if you would like more examples of the history of their time with the royals and the mistakes that they made. But psychologists Dunning and Kruger describe this as people lacking knowledge and skill as having a double curse. They make more mistakes which lead to poor decisions, and because of their lack of knowledge and skill, cannot see their errors or the gravity of their errors. Their gaps in knowledge essentially prevent them from catching their mistakes and also avoiding them. It also allows them to make more bad choices. Poor performers lack the expertise to understand just how bad they are doing. And that explains Harry and Meghan really, really well. They thought that they were winning at all of it and they just couldn't see how badly they were failing. We can all have this experience from time to time, but it's typically benign. For most people, it's when you're doing something new or you're starting something new, and we're not on TV lying about our families, for example, so the errors are not as serious and far-reaching. But there is an additional element to Harry and Meghan specifically that makes it a little bit more complex. They're not just terrible at what they're trying to do, like everything, and unable to see how bad they're doing. It also has contributed to this victim state of mind that they have because they truly might believe and think that they're doing super great, which would lead them to be more confused and offended at the criticisms that they receive, more befuddled by the criticisms because they literally cannot see how bad they're doing and how severe mistakes they're making. But also, Harry and Meghan are able then, there's like a loophole in all of this, that then they're able to blame others in really damaging ways for their own mistakes. So they clearly have those narcissistic, toxic, ego-driven things involved as an element to this that's not always present in the Dunning-Kruger effect, but it is certainly obviously with Harry and Meghan based on what we've seen. So it's a very complex situation, but learning about this psychological effect paired up with their narcissistic tendencies can lead us to better understanding of just how out of touch and disconnected Harry and Meghan are, that they're almost have blinders on and are blind to these mistakes that they are making. What do you think about this information? Do you think that this plays a role in what we've been seeing go on with Harry and Meghan recently? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm interested to read the discussion there. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!